If a young person is dysregulated or feeling lonely or feeling really challenged with their mental health, there's not effective learning occurring. We need our young people to feel safe and feel heard and feel respected and feel like they have a good mate to be able to access learning and growth as well.
We often talk about that if a young person's not in a conducive learning state, there's no learning is going to take place anyway in a classroom setting.
I think your big vision is to be able to have one good mate in every single classroom in Australia.
Yeah. The nice thing about starting a charity and being strictly purpose-led is that you're able to tap into a bunch of resources that for-profit businesses may not be able to. And so I leaned into that hard because I had no experience. I had not many resources in my life that I could tap into.
PodClass acknowledges the true and traditional custodians of the land we meet on here today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respect to elders past and present and are grateful to be on this country.
So no one told you teaching was gonna be this way. Your lesson plans are jokes, your patience broke, you're feeling in disarray. It's like you're always stuck in report writing, when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your school year. But I'll be here for you
When the students start to riot,
I'll be here for you.
even if your coffee has gone cold,
I'll be here for you, 'cause you're there for them too.
Hello and welcome back to PodClass. You're joined as always by your hosts Sky, that would be me, Amanda Marshall,
Hello.
that would be you, and Will Massara.
good day.
G'day, Will. And
We haven't started
today,
languages yet this year.
no, we haven't. We've left that out. Maybe we'll save it for the next step. And today we have a very special guest with us. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies what it means to chart your own course, redefine success, and make a lasting impact. We are very thrilled to welcome Millie Bannister. She's an award-winning founder, a Gen Z specialist, and the creative powerhouse behind AllKND, which is a trailblazing youth mental health charity dedicated to equipping young Australians with peer-to-peer mental health first aid. She has lived as a social media influencer in New York City. She now leads, obviously, a purpose-driven not-profit. Millie's journey is anything but conventional, and I'm sure she'll share some of that with us today. A background in media, journalism, positive psychology, and human research. She is a master in her field, and we are stoked to have her with us today. She champions the working smarter, not harder mindset. I think we could all probably take a bit of a lesson from Millie in this space, and focuses on building capacity over resilience. Without further ado, please welcome Millie to the podcast.
That was some excellent Googling by you. That's like the best introduction ever.
Me and my friend ChatGPT, let's not talk about how many trees.
Sky, really, that intro just cut down 10 trees.
No, we truly are so excited to have you with us today.
I'll replant them for you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So we would love to kick off, I guess, just asking a bit of a question to get to know you a little bit better before we dive into the work you do and how important it is in this space. And the question I'd love to throw to you is, knowing where you are now in your life, reflecting back to when you were a kid, what did you want to do and how have your kind of experiences impacted the work that you do now?
That's such a nice question for educators who are around young people who are trying to decide what they want to do, because, or even family members, siblings, or even if you're a young person listening to this, because for me, at least anyway, there was so much pressure on trying to decide what that was, especially if you are going to then dedicate financial resources to a degree or something like that. And I'm a bit of I have perfectionistic tendencies, so I wanted to get it right the first time. So the stakes were really, really high. And the only thing that I really wanted to do after visiting Hollywood when I was like 12 years old was to be an actor. And then so I did a bit of that in high school and obviously just absolutely loved it. But having, I guess, a lot of anxiety as well as a young person, I didn't feel that I was, I don't love the word, it feels very boomer, but resilient. I didn't feel resilient enough to face what that career would, I guess, bring me and the journey to get to what's, I guess, people call success in that industry as well. So I wanted to bring the bar a lot lower, I guess, for myself. So I was good at writing as well. I'm very creative. That's the way my brain works. And my best mate was doing a journalism degree. So I thought that might be a good idea to do as well. So we went off to uni together. I hated it. She loved it. She's now a very successful reporter, and she was just born for it. She's exceptional. But for me, I think we have different sides of the brain. I think I wanted to write flowery things, and she wanted to write hard-hitting investigative journalism. And I kept getting in trouble for, being too creative. So I moved over to like media and comms and kind of went down that path, not knowing where it would take me. And then from there, I ended up on a exchange program because I was so desperate to travel, and I really didn't like uni either. It just didn't really fit my lifestyle. I had too much spare time, and I was working, a couple of jobs, but I just wasn't doing anything that I guess fulfilled me. And my life didn't feel very balanced, and I needed a hard reset and a hard shake-up. And for me, that was traveling, but I still had a year of uni to go. Or at that time, I had like 2 years of uni to go. So having an out and a goal to get to for my third year of uni being, going overseas as part of this exchange program, and it financially made more sense than just taking off into the sunset and funding travels.
As romantic as taking off into the sunset.
Right. Yeah. Because again, I was an anxious person and needed structure and a reason to go somewhere. And so for me, that just worked out. And then from there, I just, figured out a way to make money to survive and keep traveling and keep living overseas until COVID. And that's where social impact kind of bled into the work that I was doing in the digital space. And that's, how AllKND started and how it got me here today. But, it's very unconventional, non-linear, as you said, and not something that I guess you could predict for yourself either, because charity founder is a very random job title that, I would have no idea what the day-to-day of looks like as a young person, let alone want that for myself. But I think looking back, I would probably, gently suggest to myself to just follow things that I really enjoyed doing. And, that classic kind of quote or example of, taking one step, not knowing where the next one will lead you, but if you take that first step, the next one will kind of light up and you'll be able to go one step at a time.
A curiosity piece, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like you just stay so curious.
That's right.
Especially like the journey that you've been on. Now you're obviously sitting as the founder of AllKND, but what is AllKND in your words or as a TLDR?
So AllKND has been a little bit the same way. It's followed the same process of evolution because you don't know what you don't know when you start something. You just have to start, and then answers will reveal themselves as you know more and you make mistakes. And so it started actually as GirlKND, the first iteration, and it was a similar kind of philosophy, was shaped by the same values that I still hold today for the company or the charity. And it was really about kind of, I guess, sharing or offering those kind of life lessons and mental health educational pieces that we didn't necessarily learn in school, but for young women, because that was obviously my experience that I felt I was comfortable to talk to. And then COVID happened and I came home, and the business structure and format was kind of obliterated because I was kind of on the ground doing workshops over there. Schools closed, came home. But that was really lucky because it gave me time to do all of the back end work to start a charity, which is a weird kind of process to do because essentially you're starting a business, but you've got, a bunch of
more rules.
Yeah, a bunch of rules, a bunch of paperwork. Thankfully,
it's not just as simple as getting an ABN. No, it is not.
Yeah, it was a little bit harder. But the nice thing about starting a charity and being strictly purpose-led is that you're able to tap into a bunch of resources that for-profit businesses may not be able to. And so I leaned into that hard because I had, no experience. I had not many resources. I guess, in my life that I could tap into. But I felt that behind the, I guess, protection of coming at conversations or coming to building relationships with people was that I felt protected by this idea that, oh, well, it's a charitable mission and I'm not making any money here. So it's not my name that you're funding, it's the mission. So I felt safer in that because I've worked a little bit in media and stuff, and I've come to business relationships in a way that is kind of only benefiting myself. But once you kind of get your, I guess, purpose really clear and who your beneficiaries are, it feels a lot easier to remove your own, I guess, ego from that and know that people aren't perceiving your ask as an ego-backed ask. It's my ask is coming to you because it's going to benefit X amount of young people. I'm not doing it for me. I'm not sitting down, having this conversation for me right now. I'm doing it because it's going to get AllKND seen. And then through that, there's going to be X amount of people, trained in peer-to-peer mental health first aid training. So you can kind of start getting these like really tangible, impactful results that become at stake if someone says no, which feels a lot easier as someone with a lot of social anxiety.
Yeah, help to obviously reduce that anxiety because it's not about funding yourself or your face. It's like the mission and the purpose.
Yeah, which is not wrong, by the way. Like so many for-profit businesses 100%. Are doing amazing things in the world. But for me, as someone who has always been very apologetic about showing up and launching a business, it felt a lot easier to do it in social impact. Apart from, the passion behind why I did it and my lived experience as a very young person going through, mental health challenges and supporting, my best friend when I was 15 who was really going through it and becoming their emotional support person and not knowing what to do and not having the education that has become our product and knowing firsthand what that feels like and how awful it can be for your own mental health. You've got that side of it too. So you kind of just are fueled by intention that is backed by a really solid purpose.
And the mission is so much bigger than you.
That's right, yeah.
But it wouldn't exist without you, which is incredible.
I guess, yeah.
You mentioned your main product or your main offering or service in your mission as peer-to-peer mental health first aid. Can you tell us a little about that? Because most of our listeners and most of our communities are people who work with young people. Maybe they're a parent, maybe they're an educator, maybe they have a youth organisation. So what exactly is peer-to-peer mental health first aid? How does that look? And what kind of what are you seeing as, I guess, some of the benefits playing out for young people? What are you hearing about young people who are getting the opportunity to do this program?
It's almost like CPR or first aid training.
I love that.
And getting your certificate in physical health and becoming an equipped first responder to a situation that might require you to deploy skills that could potentially save someone's life. It's the exact same thing, but it's for your brain or other people's brain. And so obviously it's, first of all, it's education, but secondly, it's helping to shape culture that encourages compassion for other human beings. And we know from research that majority of young people go to each other first for support as opposed to their trusted adults around them. And so there was no peer-to-peer product that catered to this. There was a bunch of kind of youth mental health first aid products and workshops and things which are incredibly important because we need our educators, our parents, our aunties and uncles and our elders to be across this information because they make up part of a young person's support network in majority of cases. If they are, on an app like Beyond Now, which is what Beyond Blue does for safety planning, a lot of the time people will list their trusted adults. So it's incredibly important that adults know, how to support the young people in their lives. And our product can do that. But the difference with our product is that it's designed for young people first. So if the language, or the tone of voice or the style and tone doesn't land perfectly with an adult, that's fine because it's not designed for adults. And you can just suffer in your jocks. You know what I mean? Like you just have to sit through it. Like it's engaging and it's bright and it's friendly and it's conversational because it is designed for this new generation. And so, yeah, there wasn't anything that was designed digitally either. There are some workshops that require schools to book facilitators and come in for a couple of days, which is awesome. But there are a bunch of, schools that don't have access to that funding or they are regional or remote or they simply can't sacrifice, the amount of time it would cost or the amount of teacher resources. And so essentially we just wanted to remove as many excuses as possible and be like, oh, you don't have time. No worries. It takes 60 minutes. Oh, you don't have any funding? Cool. It's free.
You're not centrally located to this city. No worries. It's, it's online.
And I remember you telling me, Millie, I think we had a coffee a few months ago. It's like your big vision is to be able to have one good mate in every single classroom in Australia, right?
I love that you remember that. Yeah, that's kind of, I guess, how that just came to me at one point when we were probably doing some sort of boring like back end work. That was just how I brain dumped that concept of, okay, what does impact actually look like and what are we aiming for here and how can we capitalize on the ripple effect of, one person on the plane being certified in first aid could potentially save a life. What does that look like for young people in their spaces? And if we do have someone on a sports team or in a workplace or in a group chat, how can they actually then extend their skills, their language? How can they help shape that conversation and the tone of it? How can they pull up their friends if they're saying things that might not necessarily be super conducive to a psychologically safe environment? What does that ripple effect look like? And it's very hard to measure, of course, because unless you surveyed every young person in the country, it'd be really hard to measure. But we like to think of it like, if you are shaped by the 5 people closest to you, if one of those people has done this training and has kind of, I guess, learned this compassion, how does that then shape you as one of their best mates?
So what does it mean to be a good mate then? So we were going to look at, I guess, a young person does this 60-minute course, they go through, they get certified in their good mate qualification, they've got their preventative first aid. What does that mean for them in terms of what they can then do to support their peers, their friendship group, whatever it is for them?
So I guess we've got the fact that they could potentially save someone's life if they're, going through a severe mental health challenge. They could direct them to the right resources that could save their life. They could help reduce stigma in conversations around mental illness or different experiences of mental health challenges that people have. And then they are essentially helping shape that compassionate culture as well. And that also extends to them internally as well. So we like to think of a good mate as someone who is educated and informed and aware, but is also culturally on board with the concept of what it means to be kind to other people and also to themselves.
So what can we, and I love it, I love this concept. I think everyone, like you said, we all need a good mate and someone, if we can have that person in a classroom that has got that skill to, like you were saying, the ripple effect's hard to measure, but it's there. 100%. Undoubtedly. But I'm thinking for like our audience, we've got teachers, parents, people who support young people in their worlds. I know you said at the start that the language and the way that it's designed isn't necessarily in their language or for them, but it can be something that they can, I guess, advocate for, promote, ask their students to do with their young person in their life. Like, how do we help to, I guess, make that more accessible, or what can adults be doing or conversations that they can be having or promoting to help, I guess, enhance the impact in that space?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it probably starts with adults feeling comfortable to open up these conversations. I completely understand as someone who has, been there as both a young person and now as an adult with a bunch of, young people in my spaces, it can feel really daunting to open up those conversations. So I think do what you can to make yourself comfortable. That's your responsibility. I know teachers are underfunded, under-resourced, and so hopefully good mate training can be something that is quick to do and costs them nothing. And hopefully that makes them feel better resourced and equipped to have conversations with young people. But to also know that it's, as part of their processes in their institutions, it's not necessarily their responsibility to keep a young person alive and functioning, because that burden can be huge. That weight can be huge. And they can also be aware of the resources that extend beyond the school as well, the mental health professionals and resources that we have in this country.
And I think almost like putting it into like young people's language.
Yeah.
As an educator, like we often will be like, we want young people to rise to the occasion or meet us where we're at.
Educators need to meet us with
and
the
it's not. It was
language.
like, well, we believe that educators need to be meeting young people where they're at. And so if it's a small thing that we can do in the language that we're using or how we talk about mental health or whatever it is in schools, those small tweaks and changes that can really also create that compassionate kind of landscape.
And also them safe environments, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, because if a young person is dysregulated or feeling lonely or feeling really challenged with their mental health, we're not doing effective teaching. There's not effective learning occurring. It's like we need our young people to feel safe and feel heard and feel respected and feel like they have a good mate to be able to access learning and growth as well.
Because we often talk about that if a young person's not in a conducive learning state, there's no learning is going to take place anyway in a classroom setting.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that our young people, that we're really big advocates for building relationship first and that being their priority. When you are an adult in a young person's life, you do hold a position of influence and you can have impact. But like you said at the start, peers are often going to go to their peers first. So we can be promoting how to positively and safely have those conversations and have those supports in place. And that's exactly what AllKND does. So it seems like a really good starting point for anyone, teachers, educators, parents who are thinking like, how do I promote these conversations? Like AllKND is one of the answers.
Millie, I'm a teacher. I'm in my classroom. I've listened to this episode. What are the steps that I need to take to be able to get either AllKND or the Good Mates training into my classroom?
So it's goodmatetraining.com. It's really simple and it is, very, very quick to sign up or sign in. And it saves your pace as well, so you can pick it up whenever you like. So that's via desktop. And then we also have in the app stores Good Mate Training as an app. And then you can complete the training in there as well. But we also have kind of saved action flows of this is the situation I'm in, this is what I'm dealing with right now with a young person or a peer, and this is the kind of flow chart of what I should do in this situation, the kind of phrases I could potentially use, the kind of physical actions I need to take, who I need to call, that kind of thing.
Such a nice poster to have on their classroom door next to their PodClass
poster. No, posters would be good too. But no, I think teachers and educators and adults are a really great place to start as well, because they can also help model what good mate behaviour looks like as well.
100%.
Yeah.
So our mission is we would love every classroom across Australia to have a good mate in it.
Yes,
Every group of
that's
5
right.
now.
Every group of 5.
We're
Oh,
upping
we've
the
narrowed it
stakes
down.
now.
Oh gosh, I have to update the 2025 strategy.
We are PodClass. Thank you so much. Thank you, Millie. We'll see you next week, we believe.
Oh, you will. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
We'll see you then.
Bye.
I'll be here for you, 'cause you're there for them too.
Thanks so much for tuning into PodClass. If you've enjoyed this episode, we would adore it if you could go on to Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and leave us a review. 5 stars would be lovely. We would love to get this podcast into as many ears as possible so we can help and support as many people as possible who help young people. And if you're not already doing so, please go along to Instagram and follow us at podclass.aus.